Sarah Martinez sat in the corner of the conference room, her presence barely acknowledged by the 12 other people gathered around the mahogany table. She was there because her name appeared on the project roster, nothing more. When Marcus Chen, the project lead, distributed the assignment sheets, he slid hers across the table without making eye contact. "You'll handle documentation," he said flatly, already turning to address someone else. Documentation. It was always documentation. In her 3 years at Apex Security Solutions, Sarah had never been given a real assignment. She was the person they added to teams to meet diversity quotas, the extra name on reports that made projects look more collaborative than they actually were. Her colleagues spoke over her in meetings. Her suggestions disappeared into the void of indifference. The project was massive. Apex had been contracted by the Department of Defense to develop a new cybersecurity framework for military communications. Millions of dollars were on the line, and the team buzzed with excitement. Everyone except Sarah, who would be typing up meeting notes while others built their careers. That evening, Sarah returned to her small apartment in Arlington. The place was modest, just a one-bedroom with barely enough space for her collection of outdated computer equipment. But those machines held secrets. On her personal network, hidden behind layers of encryption that would make most hackers weep with envy, Sarah maintained her other life. She changed out of her business casual clothes and into sweatpants and an old hoodie. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, and within seconds she had bypassed her own security measures. A black screen appeared with green text. "Welcome back, Phantom. That was the name that made experienced hackers nervous. That was the name whispered in dark web forums with a mixture of fear and respect. For 8 years, Sarah had operated as one of the world's most skilled cybersecurity experts, a ghost who could slip through any digital defense, who had stopped 3 major international cyber attacks, and who had once single-handedly dismantled a ransomware operation that had targeted hospitals across Europe. But no one at Apex knew. No one in her daily life had any idea. Sarah had learned early that the world judged people by their appearance, their resume, their social skills. She was quiet, plain-looking, and didn't play office politics, so she became invisible. It hurt at first, but eventually she realized invisibility had its advantages. People underestimated her. They dismissed her. And that meant they never saw her coming. She pulled up the details of the Apex project. The framework her team was developing would protect communications for military operations worldwide. It was important work, and despite how they treated her, Sarah cared about doing it right. She began her own analysis, probing the preliminary designs that Marcus had uploaded to the shared drive. Within 20 minutes, she found the first vulnerability. Within an hour, she had identified 6 more. The framework Marcus was so proud of was a disaster waiting to happen. Any sophisticated adversary could exploit these weaknesses. But if she told them, would they listen? Would Marcus take seriously the concerns of the woman he had relegated to note-taking? Sarah knew the answer. She had tried before on other projects. Her warnings were ignored until problems became undeniable. And even then, someone else took credit for identifying the issues she had flagged weeks earlier. She made detailed notes of every vulnerability, timestamped and saved to her encrypted drives. Then she did something else. She began building her own version of the framework, one without the flaws, one that would actually work. The next morning at Apex, the team gathered for a progress update. Marcus presented the preliminary framework with obvious pride. "We're ahead of schedule," he announced. "The architecture is solid. I expect we'll have a working prototype by next month." Sarah sat in her usual corner, laptop open, supposedly taking notes. But she was actually running silent penetration tests on their system, documenting exactly how an attacker would breach their defenses. The results were worse than she had thought. This framework wouldn't just fail. It would be a highway for enemy hackers. "Any questions?" Marcus asked, scanning the room. His eyes passed over Sarah as if she were furniture. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the trackpad. Should she say something? Her heart pounded. The old familiar fear crept in. The fear of being dismissed, of being laughed at, of being proven invisible once more. "Actually," Sarah began, her voice quiet. "Sorry, what?" Marcus said impatiently. "I said I have a concern," Sarah repeated, louder this time. "About the authentication protocols," Marcus sighed. "Sarah, we've been over this. The protocols are industry standard. But the implementation has a timing vulnerability," she continued. her confidence growing as she entered her element. If you offset the authentication requests by 17 milliseconds, you can bypass the "I'm going to stop you there," Marcus interrupted, holding up his hand. "We have actual security experts on this team. Why don't you focus on keeping accurate notes, okay?" A few people chuckled. Sarah felt her face burn. She closed her laptop and said nothing else for the remainder of the meeting. But that night, on a secure channel known only to a select few in the intelligence community, Phantom sent an encrypted message. It went to a contact she had worked with before, a man who understood that sometimes the best agents were the ones nobody noticed. 3 weeks later, everything changed. The team was days away from presenting their prototype to the Pentagon when the test environment was hit. Unknown attackers breached the demonstration network, compromising it completely in under 4 minutes. Alarms blared. Systems crashed. The carefully prepared presentation became a humiliating disaster. Marcus went pale. The client was furious. The project was on the verge of cancellation, and Apex stood to lose not just this contract but their reputation in the defense sector. In the chaos, no one noticed Sarah working calmly at her laptop. No one saw her fingers dancing across the keys, tracing the attack back to its source, identifying the methods used, and quietly, methodically, beginning to understand exactly who they were dealing with. Because Sarah recognized the attack signature. She had seen it before, years ago, in her work as Phantom. This wasn't random. This wasn't some script kiddie looking for glory. This was a state-sponsored attack group, one of the most dangerous in the world, and they had just declared war on Apex Security Solutions. What Marcus and the others didn't know, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that this attack wasn't about the project at all. It was about her. Somewhere, somehow, someone had figured out where Phantom worked, and they had just made a very serious mistake. Sarah allowed herself the smallest smile as she saved her analysis. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Soon enough, they would learn the truth. The useless add-on in the corner was about to become the only thing standing between them and complete destruction. The emergency meeting was called for 8 in the morning. Sarah arrived early, as she always did, and set up her laptop in the corner. The room filled quickly with stressed executives, angry project managers, and her exhausted teammates. Marcus looked like he hadn't slept. His expensive suit was wrinkled and dark circles hung under his eyes. Jennifer Park, the chief technology officer, entered last. She was a tall woman with sharp features and a reputation for destroying careers when projects failed. She didn't sit down. Instead, she stood at the head of the table, her arms crossed, her expression dangerous. "Somebody tell me how a supposedly secure military-grade system got completely destroyed in under 5 minutes, she said, her voice cold enough to freeze water. Marcus stumbled through an explanation, technical jargon tumbling out in a desperate attempt to deflect blame. He mentioned system complexity, sophisticated attackers, and the need for additional resources. Sarah watched him carefully, noting how he avoided mentioning the security flaws she had tried to warn him about. "We can fix this," Marcus insisted. "Give us 2 weeks, maybe 3, and we'll patch the vulnerabilities." 3 weeks? Jennifer's laugh was bitter. "The Pentagon gave us 48 hours to explain what happened or they pull the contract. We don't have 3 weeks. We don't have 3 days." The room fell silent. Careers were ending in real time. Sarah saw the fear in her colleagues' faces. Some of them had families, mortgages, children in college. This failure would follow them forever in the defense contractor world. Sarah cleared her throat softly. No one heard her. She tried again, louder. "Excuse me." Jennifer's sharp eyes found her. "Yes, and you are?" "Sarah Martinez. I'm on the project team." "Doing what exactly?" Jennifer asked, genuinely uncertain. "Documentation," Marcus interjected quickly, dismissively. "Sarah, this really isn't the time for—" "I know who attacked us," Sarah said, her voice steady and clear. The room went completely silent. Every eye turned to her. Marcus looked confused and irritated. Jennifer raised an eyebrow, her interest caught. "You know who attacked us?" Jennifer repeated slowly. "How?" Sarah stood up, her laptop under her arm. "May I use the screen?" Jennifer gestured to the projection system. Sarah connected her laptop, and within seconds, data filled the large monitor. Code sequences, attack patterns, routing information, and timestamps created a complex web of digital evidence. "The attack came from a group called Nightfall," Sarah explained. her quiet demeanor transforming as she stepped into her expertise. They're a state-sponsored hacking collective based in Eastern Europe. They've been active for 6 years and specialize in military and government targets. How could you possibly know that? Marcus demanded, his face reddening. Sarah pulled up another screen. The attack used a specific type of polymorphic malware that leaves a signature in the memory allocation patterns. See here? She pointed to a section of code. This 17-byte sequence appears in 3 other documented Nightfall attacks from the past 2 years. They think it's invisible, but if you know what to look for, it's like a fingerprint. Jennifer moved closer to the screen, studying the data. Where did you learn to do this kind of analysis? Sarah hesitated. This was the moment. The moment where her 2 lives collided. She could back down, return to invisibility, let someone else take the credit and the risk, or she could step into the light. I've been doing cybersecurity work independently for 8 years, Sarah said carefully. I've tracked Nightfall before. I know their methods. Independently? Jennifer's tone sharpened. For whom? Various clients. Private sector, some government contracts. I keep it separate from my work here. That wasn't quite the whole truth, but it was enough. Jennifer studied her for a long moment, and Sarah wondered if this brilliant woman could see through the careful words, if she could sense the deeper secrets. Can you stop them? Jennifer asked bluntly. I can try, Sarah replied. Then do it. You have full access to whatever resources you need. Marcus, you'll assist her. Marcus looked like he had been slapped. But I'm the project lead. You should be grateful you still have a job, Jennifer cut him off. Ms. Martinez seems to be the only person in this room who has any idea what we're dealing with. Unless you have better information? Marcus's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Jennifer turned back to Sarah. My office now. We need to talk. Sarah followed the CTO down the hallway, aware of the stares burning into her back. In 3 years, she had never been to the executive floor. Jennifer's office was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and walls covered with awards and certificates. Jennifer sat behind her desk and gestured for Sarah to sit across from her. Talk to me, and this time tell me the truth. All of it. Sarah's mind raced. How much should she reveal? How much could she reveal without exposing Phantom? But Jennifer was watching her with an intensity that suggested lying would be worse than any truth. I started hacking when I was 15, Sarah began. Nothing malicious, just curiosity about how systems worked. I got good at it. Really good. By the time I was in college, I was doing freelance security consulting. After graduation, I built a reputation in certain communities as someone who could solve problems others couldn't. What communities? Jennifer asked. The kind that don't advertise in newspapers. Dark web forums, encrypted channels, places where serious security professionals discuss serious threats. I've helped stop ransomware attacks, tracked down cyber criminals, identified vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure. Why work here? Jennifer leaned forward. With skills like that, you could be making 10 times your current salary anywhere else. Sarah had asked herself that question many times. I wanted normal. I wanted a regular job, regular hours, regular life. The other work, it's intense. Dangerous sometimes. I thought I could keep it separate, do both. And instead you ended up filing paperwork and taking notes. Yes. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, her fingers drumming on the desk. Did you know the framework Marcus designed was vulnerable? Yes, I tried to tell him during the first meeting. He shut me down. And you didn't push back? Sarah met her eyes. Would you have listened? In 3 years, I've made dozens of suggestions. Not one was taken seriously. Eventually, you stopped trying. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. That's on us. On me, really. I hired Marcus because he had the right credentials, the right background. I didn't look deeper. I didn't consider that the best talent might not come in the expected package. She paused. Can you really stop Nightfall? Alone? No, but with the right resources and a team that actually listens, yes. They're good, but they're not invisible. Everyone makes mistakes. I just need to find theirs, then find them. You're the new project lead. Marcus reports to you now. I'll inform the team. Sarah's eyes widened. That's going to cause problems. I don't care. This company is about to lose everything if we don't turn this around. I need someone who can actually do the job, not someone who looks good in meetings. Can you do this? Could she? This meant exposure, attention. all the things she had avoided for years. But it also meant finally being seen, being valued for what she could actually do, and more importantly, it meant stopping Nightfall before they did real damage. "Yes," Sarah said firmly. "I can do this." "Good. You start immediately." "And Sarah?" Jennifer's voice took on a warning tone. "If I find out you're hiding anything that could compromise this company or our clients, we're going to have a very different conversation." Sarah nodded, her stomach tightening. She was hiding plenty, but none of it compromised Apex. At least, not yet. As she left Jennifer's office, Sarah pulled out her phone and sent a carefully worded message to an encrypted number. She needed help, the kind of help that only existed in the shadows where Phantom operated, because Nightfall hadn't attacked Apex randomly. They had come looking for someone. They had come looking for her. The conference room felt different when Sarah walked in as project lead. The same people sat around the same table, but the dynamic had shifted. Marcus sat stiffly at the far end, his jaw clenched. Some teammates looked curious, others skeptical, and a few openly resentful. Nobody wanted to take orders from the woman they had ignored for 3 years. Sarah set her laptop down at the head of the table and connected to the projector. Her hands were steady, but her heart hammered against her ribs. Public speaking had never been her strength. Coding, hacking, digital warfare. Those she understood. People were much more complicated. "I know this is unexpected," she began, her voice quiet but firm. "I know most of you don't know what I'm capable of. That's partly my fault. I let myself become invisible here. But right now, we have 36 hours to convince the Pentagon that we can protect their communications, and Nightfall is still out there, probably planning their next move." David Torres, one of the senior developers, raised his hand. "With all respect, how do we know you can handle this? Your background is in documentation." "My background is in cybersecurity," Sarah corrected. "I've been doing security consulting for 8 years. I've worked on projects you've never heard of because they're classified or because the clients needed discretion. I found Nightfall's signature in the attack code within 2 hours of the breach. I can find them again." "Prove it," Marcus said coldly. "Show us something you've actually done." Sarah had anticipated this. She pulled up a screen showing a complex network diagram. 6 months ago, a major hospital network in Germany was hit by ransomware. 300 hospitals. Patient data was encrypted. The attackers demanded 50 million euros. The German government hired consultants to negotiate. I was brought in to break the encryption. She clicked through slides showing code sequences and attack patterns. It took me 48 hours, but I found a flaw in their implementation. I recovered the encryption keys and restored all the data. No ransom was paid. The attackers were traced and arrested. The room was silent. David leaned forward, studying the technical details. "This is sophisticated work." "You really did this?" "I did."
"I can provide references if needed, though most of my clients value discretion. Why didn't you tell us about this before?"
asked Rachel Kim, another team member. "I tried," Sarah said simply, "but not about specific projects. I tried to contribute to our work here. I was shut down every time." Her eyes found Marcus. "Do you remember the authentication vulnerability I mentioned 3 weeks ago? The timing attack vector?" Marcus's face darkened. "That was theoretical. That's exactly what Nightfall used to breach our system. The 17-millisecond offset I described. If someone had listened, we might not be in this situation." The weight of that statement settled over the room. Several people glanced at Marcus, whose face had gone red. Jennifer Park entered, breaking the tension. "I see you've started. Good. Sarah, tell them the plan." Sarah took a breath and pulled up a new presentation. "Nightfall attacked us for a reason. They're not random. They choose targets carefully, and they don't waste resources on companies unless there's a bigger goal. I think they were testing our defenses, probing for weaknesses in the framework we're building." "Why would they care about our framework?" Rachel asked. "Because if they can compromise it before it's deployed, they'll have access to military communications worldwide. They'll know the vulnerabilities from the start. That's worth billions in intelligence value." David's eyes widened. "So they'll attack again." "They're probably attacking right now," Sarah confirmed. "Just more quietly this time. That's why we need to rebuild the entire framework from scratch, but this time we build it as a trap." "A trap?" Jennifer asked, intrigued. Sarah nodded, warming to her subject. "We designed the new framework with intentional weaknesses, false vulnerabilities that look real, but actually feed us information about anyone who tries to exploit them. When nightfall comes back, and they will, we'll be waiting. We'll trace them, identify their infrastructure, and shut them down permanently. Marcus finally spoke, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. That's insane. We're supposed to protect military communications, not use them as bait. We'll use a sandbox environment, Sarah explained patiently. Nothing connects to real military systems. But Nightfall won't know that. They'll think they've found another weakness, and when they strike, we'll have them. Jennifer smiled, a predatory expression that reminded everyone why she had risen to CTO. I like it. How long do you need? 30 hours if everyone works together. It's tight but possible. Then make it happen. You all report to Sarah now. Anyone who has a problem with that can update their resume. Jennifer's gaze swept the room, daring anyone to object. No one did. Sarah, you have full authority. Whatever you need. After Jennifer left, the team sat in uncomfortable silence. Sarah knew she needed to win them over. Not through authority, but through respect. They needed to see her as more than just the boss's sudden favorite. I know this is weird, Sarah said, her voice softer now. I know you all have more experience than my official record shows. I'm not here to replace anyone or prove I'm better than you. We're in trouble, real trouble, and I have specific skills that can help, but I need all of you. David, you're the best systems architect here. Rachel, your encryption work is brilliant. Marcus, you understand military protocols better than anyone. She met each person's eyes as she spoke, acknowledging them individually. I can't do this alone. I need your expertise. What I'm asking is that you give me a chance. Work with me for the next 30 hours and judge me by results. If I fail, you can go back to ignoring me. Deal? David was the first to nod. Deal. Show me what you've got in mind for the architecture. Rachel followed. I want to see these false vulnerabilities. They need to be convincing. One by one, the team engaged, curiosity overcoming resentment. Even Marcus, though silent, opened his laptop and began working. For the next 30 hours, Sarah barely slept. The team worked in shifts, but she was always there, moving between workstations, reviewing code, answering questions, and slowly, carefully, building trust. She shared techniques she had learned in her other life, methods that made her teammates' eyes light up with understanding. Around hour 20, Rachel approached her with coffee and a question. Sarah, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why did you let us treat you like you were useless? You clearly have incredible skills. You could have demanded respect. Sarah was quiet for a moment, considering her answer. I learned early that being underestimated is sometimes an advantage. People don't guard their words around you. They don't see you as a threat. You see and hear things you wouldn't otherwise. That sounds lonely. It is, Sarah admitted, but it's also safe. When people don't notice you, they can't hurt you. Rachel nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have paid more attention. Should have listened when you tried to contribute. Thank you. That means a lot. As dawn broke on the second day, the framework was complete. Sarah had designed something beautiful. A security system that looked impenetrable but contained carefully crafted weaknesses that would trap any attacker who tried to exploit them. More importantly, those weaknesses would phone home, giving Sarah everything she needed to trace Nightfall back to their origin. The presentation to the Pentagon was scheduled for 2 that afternoon. Sarah showered in the office bathroom, changed into the spare clothes she kept in her car, and tried to calm her nerves. This was the moment that would define everything. Jennifer found her in her cubicle, staring at her monitor. Ready? As ready as I can be. Sarah, I need to tell you something. I did some digging after our conversation. Called in some favors. Your name came up in interesting places. Very interesting places. Sarah's blood ran cold. What places? Places that suggest you're much more than a freelance security consultant. Places that made very serious people tell me to stop asking questions. Jennifer's eyes were sharp. I don't know who you really are, but I know you're important. More important than this project, maybe more important than this company. Jennifer, I don't want to know the details. What I want to know is this. Is Apex in danger because of who you are? Sarah considered lying, but decided Jennifer deserved the truth. Possibly. Nightfall might have targeted us specifically because I work here. If that's true, I'm sorry. I never meant to bring trouble. Don't be sorry. Be successful. Show the Pentagon what we've built. Catch the people who attacked us. Do that and we're even. Sarah nodded, relief washing through her. I'll catch them. I promise. What she didn't say was that catching Nightfall was just the beginning, because in her encrypted inbox hidden messages were piling up. Messages from contacts in the dark corners of the internet, all saying the same thing. Nightfall had put a bounty on Phantom's identity. They wanted to know who she was, and they were getting close. The Pentagon conference room was intimidating in its simplicity. Gray walls, a long table, and 5 military officers whose combined experience in security operations probably exceeded a century. Sarah sat at the table with Jennifer beside her, acutely aware that her entire career hung on the next hour. Colonel James Morrison led the Pentagon team. He was in his 50s with iron gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. He had reviewed the breach report and was not pleased. "Ms. Martinez," he began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to instant obedience. "You're asking us to trust a framework designed by someone whose previous role was documentation. Help me understand why we should." Sarah had prepared for this question. She opened her laptop and pulled up the technical specifications. "Colonel, with respect, I wasn't hired for documentation. I was relegated to it. There's a difference. My actual background includes 8 years of advanced cybersecurity work, 3 prevented major cyber attacks, and successful defense consulting for government agencies in 4 countries. Can you verify that?" asked Major Rachel Cooper, the only other woman in the room. "Some of it is classified, but I can provide contact information for verification. However, given our time constraints, I'd prefer to demonstrate competency through results." Sarah pulled up a live feed of the new framework. This system incorporates lessons learned from the breach. More importantly, it's designed to actively counter the specific tactics used by Nightfall. She walked them through the architecture, explaining in clear, accessible terms how each layer functioned. The officers asked sharp, probing questions. Sarah answered everyone without hesitation, her confidence growing as she spoke about something she truly understood. 30 minutes in, Colonel Morrison held up his hand. "Stop, I want to test this." Major Cooper run a penetration test. Standard military protocols. Let's see if this framework holds up. Sarah's heart jumped. This wasn't part of the plan, but she couldn't refuse. "Of course. The system is ready." Major Cooper pulled out a military-grade laptop and connected to the test environment. For 20 minutes, she launched attack after attack. Brute force attempts, social engineering vectors, zero-day exploits. Sarah watched the defensive systems respond, blocking each attempt, logging every detail. Finally, Major Cooper sat back, a grudging respect in her eyes. "I can't break it. I've thrown everything at this system and it's solid." "Thank you, Major," Sarah said. Then she pulled up another screen. "But there's something else you should see. While you were attacking, the framework was analyzing your methods, learning your patterns. Watch this." She played back the attack sequence, but now with additional data overlaid. "The system didn't just block you, it profiled you. If you were a real threat, we'd now know your preferred tools, your skill level, your likely origin, and probable next moves. This isn't just defense. It's intelligence gathering." Colonel Morrison leaned forward, studying the data. "You built this in 30 hours? My team built it. I designed the core architecture, but it took 12 brilliant people working around the clock to implement. And you think this will stop Nightfall?" "I think it will stop them and help us identify them. They will attack again, Colonel. That's not a question. But when they do, we'll be ready. Every attempt they make will give us more information. Eventually, they'll make a mistake and we'll have them." The colonel exchanged glances with his team. "Give us 10 minutes." Sarah and Jennifer stepped outside. Jennifer looked at her with something approaching awe. "Where did you learn to present like that? You just commanded a room full of military brass like you've been doing it your whole life." "Fear is a powerful motivator," Sarah said, trying to keep her hands from shaking. "Also, I know what I'm talking about." That helps. When they were called back in, Colonel Morrison's expression had changed. Not quite a smile, but close. "We're approving the framework for implementation. But we have conditions. First, you personally oversee the deployment. Second, we want daily reports on any suspicious activity. Third, if Nightfall strikes again, you coordinate directly with military cybersecurity. Can you handle that?" "Yes, sir." "Good, because Ms. Martinez, I did some checking during our break. Made some calls. Your name triggered some interesting responses from people in the intelligence community. People who don't normally respond to my calls. You want to tell me why that is?" Sarah's mouth went dry. This was dangerous ground. "I've done some classified work. I can't discuss details without proper clearance and authorization. I have proper clearance. Top secret SCI. And I'm very curious about who you really are. Jennifer stepped in smoothly. Colonel, whatever Ms. Martinez has done outside of Apex is her own business. What matters is that she's proven her competence today. Can we focus on the mission at hand? Colonel Morrison studied Sarah for a long moment. Fine, but Ms. Martinez, you and I are going to have a conversation soon. A private one. There are too many coincidences around you, and I don't believe in coincidences. Understood, sir. They left the Pentagon with a signed contract and a massive weight on Sarah's shoulders. In the car, Jennifer was quiet until they hit the highway. You're in trouble, aren't you? She asked. Real trouble, not just work trouble. Sarah stared out the window at the passing traffic. Maybe. Does it involve nightfall? I think so. I can't prove it yet, but the timing of their attack, the precision of it, suggests they know more about me than they should. Can I help? Sarah looked at her boss, seeing genuine concern in her eyes. Thank you, but this is something I need to handle alone. If I'm right about why Nightfall targeted us, it's better if you're not involved. Back at the office, the team celebrated the Pentagon approval, but Sarah couldn't join in. She retreated to her cubicle and checked her encrypted messages. 3 new warnings from contacts in the security community. Nightfall was asking questions about Phantom, offering serious money for information. Worse, they had started making connections. Someone had noticed that Phantom's activity had briefly paused during the exact hours Sarah was in the Pentagon presentation. It was a small data point, but dangerous. Nightfall was smart enough to build a profile from many small data points. That night, Sarah returned home to find her apartment had been searched. Nothing obvious, nothing stolen, but she knew. Books were slightly out of place. Her laptop, despite being locked and encrypted, showed signs of attempted access. Someone had been here. She ran a security sweep and found it. A listening device, professionally installed, nearly invisible. They were monitoring her. Nightfall or someone working for them had found her home. Sarah carefully left the device in place. Removing it would alert them that she knew. Instead, she went to her bathroom, turned on the shower for noise cover, and made a secure call on a phone that couldn't be traced. It's Phantom, she said when the line connected. I need extraction protocols. They've found my home. The voice on the other end belonged to Alexander Ross, her handler from her more secretive work. He was retired CIA, now working as a consultant, and one of the few people who knew both her identities. Sarah, what have you gotten into? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Nightfall. They hit my company, but I think they were really targeting me. They're trying to expose Phantom. Exposing Phantom exposes 8 years of classified operations. We can't allow that. Do you need protection? Not yet. But Alex, if they identify me, it's not just my life at risk. Every operation I've touched becomes compromised. Every client, every source, everything. I know. I'm already working on contingencies. In the meantime, be careful. Nightfall doesn't just expose people. They eliminate threats. Sarah ended the call and stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. The quiet woman who took notes and was ignored by her colleagues had somehow become the target of international cyber criminals. The life she had tried to keep separate was colliding in spectacular fashion. Her phone buzzed. A message from David Torres. Sarah, we've got movement on the honeypot system. Something's probing the framework. Thought you'd want to know. Sarah smiled grimly. Nightfall was back. They were taking the bait. She had promised Colonel Morrison she would catch them, and now she had her chance. She grabbed her laptop and headed back to the office. Sleep could wait. Revenge couldn't. As she drove through the dark streets of Arlington, Sarah didn't notice the black sedan that pulled out behind her, maintaining a careful distance. The occupants were professionals, trained in surveillance, and they had been watching Sarah Martinez for 3 days now. In the back seat, a woman reviewed photos on a tablet. Pictures of Sarah entering her apartment, leaving for work, sitting in Pentagon meetings. The woman smiled and sent a single encrypted message. Target confirmed. Phantom identified. Awaiting instructions. The response came back immediately. Observation only. Do not engage. Subject is valuable alive. We need to know what she knows. The office was nearly empty when Sarah arrived at 11 at night. Only David Torres remained, hunched over his workstation, 3 monitors displaying cascading data streams. He looked up when she entered, relief evident on his tired face. "Thank God you're here. This is way above my skill level." Sarah pulled up a chair beside him and studied the screens. The honeypot framework was being probed by something sophisticated, something that moved through the system like a living thing, testing every false vulnerability she had planted. "They're careful this time," Sarah observed, her fingers flying across her keyboard. "They learned from their first attack. See how they're mapping the system first? They're looking for the trap. Can they find it? Not if I'm better than they are." Sarah pulled up additional monitoring tools, layers of surveillance that even her team didn't know existed. She had built backdoors into her own creation, ways to observe without being observed. "David, I need you to do something for me." "Go home." "What? No way. This is the most exciting thing I've ever worked on." "I know, but what I'm about to do isn't official Apex business. If this goes wrong, I don't want you implicated, please. Trust me." David studied her face, seeing something there that made him nod slowly. "You're not just a security consultant, are you?" "I'm exactly what I need to be. Now go. I'll brief you in the morning." After David left, Sarah locked the office door and activated her real tools. Within seconds, she had transformed her workstation into something that would make military intelligence jealous. Multiple encrypted connections, routing through servers in 7 countries, each layer masking her true location and identity. The probe in the honeypot system was good, but Sarah was better. She began tracking it backward, following its digital footprints like a hunter following tracks in snow. The trail led through compromised servers, stolen credentials, and carefully constructed false identities. Nightfall was covering their tracks, but everyone left traces if you knew where to look. 3 hours into her hunt, Sarah found the first real clue. A server in Romania, registered to a shell company that showed unusual traffic patterns. She dug deeper, breaking through security layers that would have stopped most hackers, until she found internal communications. Her blood ran cold as she read them. Nightfall wasn't just trying to breach the military framework. They were hunting Phantom. The messages laid it out clearly. They believed Phantom had cost them millions in failed operations over the years. The hospital ransomware Sarah had broken, the banking fraud she had stopped, the weapons trafficking network she had helped dismantle. All Nightfall operations, all ruined by Phantom. They wanted revenge. More than that, they wanted to know who Phantom was so they could sell that information to the highest bidder. 12 hostile intelligence agencies would pay fortunes for Phantom's identity. And they were close. So dangerously close. One message made her hands shake. "Surveillance confirms target works at Apex Security Solutions. Female, late 20s, technical background. Increased activity monitoring required. Recommend direct contact to confirm identity." Direct contact. They were going to approach her, test her, maybe try to take her. Sarah needed to act fast. She had 2 choices: run and disappear, abandoning her life at Apex, or turn the tables and go after Nightfall first. Running meant safety, but also meant letting them continue hunting, continue destroying lives. Attacking meant risk, but also meant ending the threat permanently. She had never been good at running. Sarah drafted a careful message and sent it through one of Nightfall's own compromised servers, making it look like internal communication. The message claimed Phantom had been identified at a different company, provided false details, and suggested an operation to capture her in 3 days. Then she sat back and waited. 20 minutes later, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello, Sarah." The voice was male, accented, confident. "Or should I call you Phantom?" Every instinct screamed at her to hang up, but Sarah forced herself to stay calm. "I'm sorry, who is this?" "Don't insult my intelligence. We've been watching you for days. We know where you live, where you work, what you eat for breakfast. We know you're Phantom. The question is, what do we do about it?" "What do you want?" "A meeting. Face to face. Just you and me. We have business to discuss." "I don't do business with people who attack my company." The man laughed. "Your company, please. You're a note-taker who got lucky. Although I must admit the framework you built is impressive. Almost good enough to catch us, almost." Sarah made a decision. A dangerous one, but necessary. "Fine, a meeting. But on my terms. Public place, daylight, and I choose the location." Afraid of the dark Phantom? Cautious. There's a difference. Tomorrow noon. The coffee shop on King Street in Alexandria. The one with outdoor seating. Come alone. Bold of you to make demands. What makes you think I won't just take you? Because you want something from me. Information, access, something. If you just wanted me dead, I'd already be dead. So let's talk. Maybe we can reach an arrangement. There was a pause. Sarah held her breath, hoping her bluff would work. Tomorrow noon. King Street. Don't disappoint me, Sarah. I've waited a long time to meet the famous Phantom. The line went dead. Sarah immediately called Alexander. He answered on the first ring, alert despite the late hour. Tell me you didn't do what I think you did, he said. I set up a meeting with Nightfall. Tomorrow at noon. Sarah, that's insane. They could grab you, kill you, or worse, they could. But they won't. They want something, and that gives me leverage. Besides, this ends tomorrow one way or another. I'm tired of running, tired of hiding. It's time to be visible. You'll have backup. I don't care if you want it or not. I'll have people in place, Cuck. Keep them invisible. If this person thinks it's a trap, they'll vanish and we'll lose our chance. What are you planning? Sarah smiled, though there was no humor in it. I'm planning to do what I do best. I'm going to hack them, but in person. Everyone has vulnerabilities, Alex, even cyber criminals. I just need to find theirs. The next morning, Sarah dressed carefully. Not her usual plain work clothes, but dark jeans, a leather jacket, and boots. She looked different, felt different. For the first time in years, she wasn't hiding. She was stepping fully into who she really was. She arrived at the coffee shop early and chose a table with good sight lines. The morning was beautiful, autumn leaves falling gently. People passing by with no idea that a confrontation years in the making was about to unfold. At noon precisely, a man sat down across from her. He was younger than she expected, maybe 35, with dark hair and sharp features. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with easy confidence. Sarah Martinez, he said, smiling. You're not what I imagined. Phantom is supposed to be intimidating. You look like a librarian. Appearances can be deceiving. You know my name? What's yours? Call me Victor. It's not my real name, but it will do. What do you want, Victor? He leaned back, studying her. I want to know how you've stayed hidden for so long. 8 years, countless operations, and nobody knew who you were. That takes skill, discipline, I respect that. You have a strange way of showing respect. Attacking my company, threatening my life. Business, not personal. You've cost us money. Lots of money. But I'm a pragmatist. Instead of revenge, I'm thinking partnership. Your skills combined with our resources could be very profitable. Sarah laughed, genuinely amused. You want to recruit me? After everything? Why not? You're wasted at Apex playing security consultant. Work with us. Real challenges, real money. Name your price. You assume I work for money. Everyone works for money. No, Sarah said quietly. Some people work to protect others. To stop people like you from destroying lives. The hospital ransomware you did? People died because of treatment delays. The banking fraud? Families lost their savings. You think I'd join the people who do that? Victor's smile faded. Idealistic. How disappointing. I was hoping you'd be smarter than that. I'm smart enough to know you're not here alone. Sarah gestured subtly. The woman at the table behind you, pretending to read. The man in the car across the street. The 2 more in the building with the good angle on this patio. You brought backup. Victor's eyes narrowed. So did you, I assume. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just better at this than you are. Big words for someone who's surrounded. Sarah pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. On the screen was a live feed of data. While we've been talking, I've been running a trace on your phone. Found your real connection, not the proxies. Also found the server you're using to coordinate your team. Want to see something interesting? She tapped the screen and Victor's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his face went pale. On his screen was a message. Your true identity. Viktor Sokolov, born Moscow 1989, wanted for cybercrimes in 14 countries. Current location transmitted to FBI. How did you? I'm Phantom, Sarah said simply. This is what I do. You made a mistake coming here, Victor. You brought your real devices thinking you were safe. But I've been in your system since you called me last night. I know where your servers are, who your clients are, where your money is. In about 3 minutes, FBI agents are going to arrive at this coffee shop. In 5 minutes, your safe houses in 3 countries will be raided simultaneously. In 10 minutes, your entire operation will be destroyed. Sarah walked into the Apex conference room to find Colonel Morrison standing by the window, his posture rigid with controlled anger. Jennifer sat at the table, her expression unreadable. Alexander Ross was there too, which surprised Sarah until she realized he must have called in favors to be present for this conversation. "Ms. Martinez," Colonel Morrison said without turning around, "I've spent the last hour learning things about you that I find both impressive and deeply concerning. Sit down. We need to talk." Sarah took a seat across from Jennifer. "I understand you have questions." "Questions?" Morrison turned to face her and his expression was hard. "Try demands for answers. I just got off the phone with the FBI. They tell me you single-handedly dismantled an international cybercrime organization this morning. They also tell me you've been operating under a classified identity for 8 years, conducting operations that intersect with national security interests, and somehow nobody thought to mention this when we contracted with your company." "Sarah's work was personal and separate from Apex," Jennifer said carefully. "We weren't aware of the full scope of her background. That's the problem. Nobody was aware. Ms. Martinez has been invisible, working in the shadows while one of the most dangerous hacking groups in the world hunted her. Do you understand how many protocols were violated? How many risks were taken?" Sarah met his eyes steadily. "I understand completely, Colonel. I also understand that without my intervention, Nightfall would have compromised your military communications framework. They would have had access to classified military operations worldwide. My methods may have been unconventional, but the results speak for themselves." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Your results are not the issue. Your lack of transparency is. How can we trust someone who's been lying by omission for 3 years? I wasn't lying. I was surviving." Sarah's voice remained calm but carried an edge now. "You want the truth? Fine, I'll give it to you. When I was 21, I helped stop a cyber attack on the power grid that would have left the East Coast dark for weeks. The people behind it threatened my family, so I disappeared. I created Phantom and kept Sarah Martinez separate, ordinary, invisible. That invisibility kept me alive." "And Apex?" Jennifer asked quietly. "Why work here if you had this whole other life?" "Because I wanted normal. I wanted to be part of something without the weight of classified operations and death threats. I wanted colleagues and steady paychecks and boring meetings. I wanted to be overlooked because being overlooked meant being safe." Sarah's voice cracked slightly. "I know I should have told you the truth. Both of you. But how do you explain that the person taking notes in meetings is also dismantling terrorist networks in her spare time?" The room fell silent. Alexander finally spoke, his voice gentle. "Sarah has worked with intelligence agencies in 7 countries. She's prevented attacks that would have killed thousands. She's never sought recognition or payment beyond basic expenses. Everything she's done has been to protect people." "That doesn't excuse the deception," Morrison said, but his tone had softened slightly. "No," Sarah agreed. "It doesn't. And if you want to terminate my employment, fire me, or whatever consequences you think are appropriate, I understand. But I need you to know something. Nightfall targeted Apex because of me. Every person who was at risk, every dollar the company lost, that's on me. I brought that danger to your door. I'm sorry. Truly sorry." Jennifer stood and walked to the window, staring out at the city. "Sarah, in 3 years, you never caused problems. Never missed deadlines. Never complained. You just did your work quietly and went home. And all that time, you were carrying this enormous secret. I thought I was protecting everyone, or maybe you were." Jennifer turned back. "Or maybe you were protecting yourself. Either way, we have a situation now. Colonel Morrison is right. We can't have someone with your kind of background working here without proper disclosure." Sarah's heart sank. She was being fired. After everything, after finally being seen, she was being sent away. "However," Jennifer continued, "we also can't afford to lose you. The Pentagon contract specifically requests your continued involvement. You've proven your value beyond any doubt. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign a dozen non-disclosure agreements. You're going to be vetted properly by military security. You're going to disclose any and all classified work you're involved with. And then you're going to get a new title and a significant raise." Sarah blinked. "What?" "Director of Advanced Security Operations," Jennifer said. "You'll report directly to me. You'll have a team of your choosing, and you'll do what you do best, but officially this time. No more operating in the shadows. No more being invisible. I don't understand. After everything I hid—" "You hid things to survive," Jennifer interrupted. "I get that now. But that ends today. From now on, you're visible, you're valued, and you're going to help us build the best security division in the industry." Colonel Morrison crossed his arms. I'm not entirely comfortable with this arrangement. Noted, Jennifer said coolly. But she caught the people who attacked us. She protected your framework. She's an asset, Colonel, and assets should be utilized, not discarded. Morrison studied Sarah for a long moment. Fine, but I have conditions. You work closely with military intelligence. You share information. No more lone wolf operations. And if Nightfall comes back, and they will because organizations like that don't die easily, you coordinate with us. Understood? Understood, Sarah said, still trying to process what was happening. Good, because the person we arrested today, Viktor Sokolov, he's talking, trying to cut a deal. And what he's saying suggests Nightfall is much bigger than we thought. This isn't over, Ms. Martinez, it's just beginning. After the meeting ended and Morrison left, Sarah sat alone with Jennifer and Alexander. You took a huge risk defending me, Sarah said to Jennifer. You saved this company. You saved lives. That earns some loyalty. Jennifer smiled slightly. Also, you're brilliant, and I'm not stupid enough to let brilliance walk out the door because of complicated circumstances. What happens now? Sarah asked. Now you do your job. Really do it. No more hiding. No more pretending to be less than you are. Jennifer stood. I need to make some calls. We have a lot of paperwork to file. Sarah, go home. Get some rest. You look exhausted. After Jennifer left, Alexander remained. You okay? I don't know. Everything changed today. My whole life was about staying hidden, and now I'm supposed to be visible. It terrifies me. Visible doesn't mean vulnerable, Alexander said gently. You're not alone anymore. You have people who know who you are and want to protect you. That's not weakness. That's strength. Victor said Nightfall would send others. They will, but next time you won't face them alone. Sarah returned to her apartment that evening, exhausted but unable to sleep. She sat at her desk and opened her laptop, intending to check security protocols, but instead found herself staring at her reflection in the dark screen. For 3 years, she had been invisible at Apex. For 8 years before that, she had been invisible in her other life, hiding behind the name Phantom. She had convinced herself that invisibility was power, that being overlooked was safety. But today, she had been seen. Really seen, and the world hadn't ended. In fact, it had opened up. Her phone buzzed. A message from David Torres. Just heard about your promotion. About time they recognized what you can do. Drinks tomorrow to celebrate? Another message from Rachel Kim. Welcome to the leadership team. Can't wait to see what you build next. More messages followed from other team members. People who had ignored her for years were now reaching out, excited to work with her, eager to learn from her. Sarah smiled, feeling something unfamiliar. Not fear, not anxiety. Something lighter. Hope. The next morning, Sarah walked into Apex wearing different clothes. Not plain and invisible, but professional and confident. She had tied her hair back, put on subtle makeup, and chosen an outfit that said she belonged in a leadership role. People noticed. They said good morning. They smiled. Marcus Chen, who had dismissed her so thoroughly, actually stepped aside to let her pass and muttered a grudging congratulations. Her new office was on the executive floor, with windows overlooking the city. It was surreal after 3 years in a corner cubicle. Jennifer found her there, staring out at the view. Feels different, doesn't it? Jennifer asked. Everything feels different. Good. Different is what we need. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about wanting to be ordinary, to be overlooked. I understand that impulse. The world can be harsh on people who stand out, especially women in tech. It's easier to be invisible than to be a target. But you're not ordinary, Sarah. You never were. And the world needs people like you to be visible, to show what's possible, to inspire others. Jennifer handed her a folder. Your first assignment as director. Build a team. Train them. Make them as good as you are. Can you do that? Sarah opened the folder, seeing names, resumes, and potential recruits. People with talent who had probably been overlooked just like she had been. Yes, Sarah said firmly. I can do that. Over the next 3 months, Sarah built something remarkable. She recruited people who had been dismissed by others, people with unconventional backgrounds, people who were brilliant but overlooked. She tried.